I would just like to say, obviously, we're very pleased with the jury verdict. We believed in this case. I'm not saying this is a pleasant day for us in the office, but it's a day that justice dictated, and it was necessary actions on our part. The facts of the case bore out that there was nothing justified about this encounter with Mr. Parker, and justice was served. I have great admiration for the work the jury did in this case, and I know it's not easy. I think everybody always talks in their living room about, I wish I was on that jury, or I wish I could weigh in on that, but when people are put to it, you realize kind of the gravity of the moment for all involved. And I really do commend the jury for the hard work that they have done, and I believe in this system more than anyone could know. It's a different dynamic than what we normally have to encounter, because you have a police officer who is the defendant in this case. But we up here, we don't push any particular agenda. We're in pursuit of justice always, no matter who the character involved is. And I could not be more proud of the effort that my prosecutors put in on this case. And I want to make it clear too, I've been in this business for 33 years, and for 33 years I've bragged on local law enforcement in the area, and I'm talking about the rank and file on the streets in the city of Huntsville, in Madison County. And we have as good a law enforcement as any community could ever hope to have. And because this particular case involved a particular law enforcement, it is absolutely no reflection on the quality of law enforcement that we have here. And there's a lot of good men and women that have done wonderful work in this community for many years, and I couldn't be more proud of them. I'll take any questions you have on this.
You mentioned just now this is a reflection of the Huntsville Police Department. What is the message the jury sent to the community about policing and where the law should be?
I think the jury in this matter did what they were supposed to do and took a particular set of facts that was put to them and actions taken by a particular police officer which frankly were off the charts. He was not justified in any way what he did to Mr. Parker. And I think the jury focused clearly on this particular case, and this particular case has nothing to do with other cases that may be happening on the street and other interactions with police officers.
Just a quick follow-up to that. There was a lot of discussion in this case about policies and procedures and execution of training and that kind of thing. As you looked at all of it, is there any lessons do you think law enforcement can draw from what took place this week?
I believe when you look objectively at policies and procedures of Huntsville Police Department, they are sound. I think perhaps there were some in the higher echelons of Huntsville Police Department, and their interpretation of the policies and procedures may need looking at.
I know this isn't the only instance where we have, a mental health call that's in a deadly situation. What should the Huntsville Police Department kind of do when it comes to better responding to these types of calls?
I think Huntsville Police Department does a very good job with what they do. Nobody out there will deny that they are dangerous situations or potentially dangerous situations. And there's no denying that the individuals who respond to these kind of calls should be admired for that, because the average citizen doesn't want to show up if there's some crazy guy. But every case should be looked at on its own merits. And in this particular case, there was zero hostility or aggression by Mr. Parker when the officers arrived. And the first officer there, Officer Pegues, she was what you would hope would show up to your house, because she was trying to help this man. So each particular case is different. And I would not be one that says Huntsville Police Department or any local law enforcement is lacking in that area, that there's a horrible lack of training or setup. I really don't believe that.
We've talked a lot about Officer Darby and the police. What do you hope or think this means for Mr. Parker's family?
I would think for Mr. Parker's family, there is some sense of justice that came out of this. It was clear it was a sad situation that Mr. Parker found himself in, and I would think that any natural human reaction would be it was wrong what they did to my loved one, or what William Darby did to my loved one. That was wrong. And I would like to see the system make it right. So I would hope they have some measure of a feeling that justice was had today.
In terms of making it right, what would that look like, or might that look like?
Making it right would be holding somebody accountable, which happened today with the jury.
I know we're several weeks out from sentencing. I know you just got the verdict, but have y'all put any thought into, what you might ask for? And could you speak at all to, whether the guidelines apply in this case, what the possible sentences are, the range, any of that?
He's convicted of a Class A felony. The sentencing range would be minimum of 20 years up to life. But now you're talking about the province of the judge. And Judge Pate is a wonderful judge. She really is. And it will be up to her to take in all the facts, the background of William Darby, and from that, and we have great confidence in the judge. But as far as what we believe should happen, that's not our lane.
You mentioned this was a different dynamic because it involved the Huntsville Police Department officer, and you mentioned the work that Mr. Doubt, that Mr. Gann did. Can you talk about that dynamic and what it's been like in your office, and that dynamic in terms of your relationship with the police department?
Let me say this. I think it's probably obvious that sometimes you can have to deal with certain things you'd rather not deal with. But I told somebody one time, really what we do when you distill it down is pretty simple. Because we take any set of facts and we're going to strive for justice and the truth in that set of facts. And that set of facts is not dependent on any political gain or any agenda that any particular group is pushing. And here over the last couple of years, we've had everything from folks who maybe are unhappy because we don't charge an officer to folks who are unhappy because we did charge an officer. But really, for us to do our job, it takes justice is blind. There's a blindfolded lady holding a set of scales, and that's what we pursue. And if the defendant or the offender happens to be wearing a police uniform, so be it. Or if it happens to be a police uniform involved with having to take the life of another individual, it's going to be the facts that dictate what we do in this office. And obviously it's less than pleasant circumstances to, as a prosecution unit, to happen to have a particular set of facts that involves us with local law enforcement. But I'm telling you, local law enforcement, I could not be more proud of them. And it's a good bunch of guys and gals that do it. And I think when folks, including them, look at the particular facts of this case, they understand why we do what we do.
Can you, sorry, just very fast, the pressure that Mr. Gann and Mr. Douthit were under, you mentioned the job they did and you couldn't have been prouder. Anything you can say about what this case would have been like to try the sort of, we don't know what it's like behind the scenes. What was it like for them? What did you see that got us to this point?
I see people who have signed up, they have a law degree and they sign up for a state job because they believe in what they're doing. And I can't tell y'all how much I believe in this system, and it's a necessary part of the system. And I watch these guys who are not going to get wealthy working up here, and they work up here because they believe in something, and they pursue the truth and they pursue justice, no matter who it involves. And there's no way for me to put into words the pride I have about a moral conviction of what's right and what's wrong.
Have you been able to speak to the family at all during this trial? And if so, what have they said to you?
An appreciation that I think it was mentioned in court that Jeffrey Parker he was just a regular guy who was maybe not on top of the world at the time. And it would be easy for people to just brush it aside. He was sitting in court, he was a nobody. And by that, we don't mean he was a nobody, but I'm just saying he's not some figure that's going to catch anyone's attention. But if it's wrong, it's wrong. What happens to anybody? Every life has value, and it would be easy for us to just move the other way. It would be politically expedient for me to avoid this issue, but we're not going to do it. We will do whatever's right.
Did anything stand out to you during this, or in this case, or during the trial?
I think it was pretty apparent in this case the individual of William Ben Darby. I really do. I think he had maybe no business being a police officer, truthfully. I do. I think he was not wired right for it, and I think that came out. Maybe his demeanor in court and anything you saw on tape. But I think that was pretty clear, and I would guess it was fairly clear to the jury.
Anybody else have anything? Any questions?
I'm good.
So I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.